What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Today we're going to take a look at Tom Molineaux and Bill Richmond. This is some story you're going to hear about these fantastic fighters. Two African-American fighters. Their stories need to be told. You're going to hear it right here on the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Now, boxing began in 1681. It has a very long history. It was two men, Duke's Footman and the Butcher, were the two first recorded fighters that would ever settle their differences. And these two men were not fighters, but they had problems within the town and had to settle their differences. And they actually put ropes around 4 trees. No rules, no agreements, just till the last man couldn't continue. This is when the era of bare knuckle fighting began. Now, the first champion of England was James Figs, 1719. He would retire eventually in 1730. And then you would have a fighter by the name of Jack Barrett. And from that point, you would have Elizabeth Wilkins and Daniel Mendoza, who was an outstanding Jewish fighter. He was one of the first scientific fighters that you could find, was Daniel Mendoza. Then Jim Bletcher and Hen Pierce, John Gully, Tom Cribb, Tom Springs, Jim Ward, Tom Molineaux, Bill Richmond, Jim Ward, James Berkey, William Bendingo, Jack Slack, Benjamin Count, William Perry, Tom Sawyer. Jim Mace. I'm thinking of all these guys at the top of my head. Benjamin Count was a phenomenal fighter himself. But today we're looking at Tom Molineaux and Bill Richmond. We're going to get into their stories. But I got to tell you some American story. Now, Bill Richmond, his name was the Black Terror. He was born August 5th, 1763. Now, it was in New York. It was a town that they call Cout Old Town. It's now Richmond Town in Staten Island. And his first professional fight was 1804. He fought as a welterweight. Now, Bill Richmond was a well-dressed black British boxer. And how he became that, he was a slave in Virginia. And he was one of those guys that was very smart. He picked up things very easily. And he was a problem solver. He can figure things out 1, 2, 3. And he would have a slave owner by the name of Richmond Shelton. And Richmond Shelton respected Bill Richmond so much that he would be able to convince Lieutenant General Hugh Percy of the British Army to release Bill Richmond, because Bill Richmond could do a lot for him more if he was free as a slave than he was as a slave, because of his intellect and his ability to solve problems. And this happened in 1776. Now, Richmond Shelton was also convinced. He would convince Percy to allow Richmond to come back to England with him, because he took a trip there and he thought that would be the best place for him to open up businesses. And what great mind, other than Bill Richmond, could he use to help him accomplish that feat? And he would continue the education of Bill Richmond, because Bill Richmond would be a cabinet maker. He would earn the opportunity to become an apprentice as a cabinet maker, where he would become the best in his class. He would become a husband to Mary Dunwick when he moved to England. They would marry for 40 years and produce 4 beautiful children. Now, Richmond would also find himself getting into street fights in defense of his marriage. It was at this point when he decided to learn how to fight. Now, he would take up boxing lessons from Thomas Pitt. Thomas Pitt was an old-time trainer. He actually worked with Jack Slack and others. He had worked with Jack Slack and some other old-time bare-knuckle fighters. Now, Bill Richmond would be quickly reminded of why he was expected to do well by his original owner, because of the appreciation that he had with figuring things out, staying calm, and being able to solve problems. Now, he would put full trust in his 13-year-old boy. Now, eventually, he would be faced to take on a fighter from England by the name of Tom Cribb. Their first fight drew over 15,000 spectators, who became very unhappy because of the uneventful showing. Tom Cribb was given a victory. No way would Richmond be allowed to win a decision, and this was a 16-round affair. Regardless of how well-spoken or dressed he was still a black man. Now, eventually, he would take on a protege by the name of Tom Molineaux. Now, Tom Molineaux was a street fighter. He was an African-American ex-slave who came over from America. He would eventually be given his freedom rights, and he would go up to Harlem, and he would take on all comers. And then he would eventually hear about a fighter by the name of Tom Cribb in England, and he would make his trip over on a steamboat. It took several weeks to get there, but when he got there, first thing he did was into a saloon bar, and he would find himself in more fights, to the point where Bill Richmond would find out about him, and he would introduce himself to Tom Molineaux and let him know, you want to make some serious money, come with me, and I can get you a fight with Tom Cribb. And Tom Molineaux said, that's why I came. I couldn't think of the name, but that's who I was looking for. So Bill Richmond said, come with me, and we'll make a lot of money together. So he would try and prepare him, train him. And you got to realize that Tom Molineaux used to body slam, eye gouge, punch in the back of the head, knee to the groin. He would bite your fingers. He would stomp your kneecaps. And Bill Richmond said, no, this can go over 100 rounds. I got to teach you a little bit more scientific way of fighting. Because if you're going to fight Tom Cribb, you're going to have to know how to box. So he would try his very best to teach him how to box. And Molineaux would go right back to his old-fashioned street fighting. So rather than try to beat a dead horse, figure of speaking, Bill Richmond decided to incorporate his boxing and his street fighting techniques. And they worked on that over and over again till it got to a point where it looked like there was no way Tom Molineaux was going to be defeated. So they put two men in the ring with Tom Molineaux just to find out how his new fighting skills would be, and he defeated them with no problem. Easy work. So they eventually set up a fight with Tom Cribb and Tom Molineaux. And these men would meet. In December 1810 in England, it would be a 39-round affair. And they would go at it back and forth. And Tom Molineaux would get the better of Tom Cribb. He was stronger, bigger, and believe it or not, he was much faster. And Tom Cribb just couldn't seem to figure out Tom Molineaux. But in the 35th round, Tom Cribb would be dropped by Tom Molineaux. And it looked like Tom Cribb would be counted out. There was no way they were going to let that happen in England. So the cornerman jumped into the ring and started accusing Tom Molineaux of having some foreign substance in his fist. They claimed that he had a fistful of iron bullets. And after about 10 minutes of convincing all the officials and a cornerman of Tom Cribb that Tom Molineaux didn't have anything in his fist, Tom Cribb would come back to his consciousness because he was completely out cold. And Bill Richmond was yelling and screaming and saying, I have a reputation here. I fought this man. Everyone respects me. If I tell you he didn't have anything in his hands, you have to believe me. So they had asked Tom Cribb, are you okay? And he said yes, and they let the fight continue. But Tom Cribb was completely out on his feet. And by that time, Tom Molineaux was exhausted. And Tom Cribb would begin to get the better of Tom Molineaux. And 4 more rounds, Tom Molineaux couldn't continue. He knew there was no way he was going to be allowed to defeat Tom Cribb. He was exhausted. And that would be the end of the fight. But unfortunately for Tom Molineaux, he was caught up once again in white supremacy. Now boxing would begin in 1681. And you've never had a black champion up until that point. Your first black champion didn't come until Peter Jackson, who was the Australian heavyweight champion. But let me tell you what's amazing about this story. Now, Tom Molineaux would face Tom Cribb. Tom Cribb had retired, but not officially. He was living off the land. And he'd be called in because Bill Richmond, after being denied an opportunity for Tom Molineaux to face Tom Cribb, would use a different approach, and he would go around the neighborhood and around the town and tell everyone that the fight is on, that the fight would be taking place on December 1810. And this would embarrass Tom Cribb because the whole neighborhood thought the fight was on. So he would eventually accept the challenge. And this reminds me of Jack Johnson in 1910, which is 100 years earlier. Jack Johnson was running out of opponents, and they needed a white hope. So in 1910, July 4th, which is Independence Day, Jim Jeffries would come out of retirement, he would lose 100 pounds, and he would get brutally destroyed in 15 rounds. And Reno, Nevada, with Jack Johnson. Well, 100 years earlier, 1810, the exact same thing would happen. The only difference is they didn't allow Tom Cribb to be knocked out. And that's the unfortunate story of Tom Cribb and Bill Richmond. Now I'm looking at a scrapbook that I have of Tom Cribb and Bill Richmond. Fascinating fighters they were. As you can see here, Tom Molineaux was born in Georgetown, South Carolina. He weighed 198 pounds. And he stood 5 foot 8.5 Now just think about that. He took on all comers and he weighed 5 feet and 8 inches. He had his first fight 1810 in England. Official fight. It was a world championship fight. And he was beaten by Tom Cribb in 33 rounds. December 18th, 1810. Bill Richmond, the Black Terror, was born August 5th, 1763, Richmond, Staten Island, New York. He weighed 175 pounds and he stood 5'9". I just wanted to go over this fight between Tom Molineaux, Tom Cribb, and Bill Richmond and Tom Cribb. Now, since then, you had bare knuckle fighters come and go. Here you have Jake Kilrain, who would be the first lineal champion. Now, he was from England, and he would defeat Jim Smith in 1887. But that belt wouldn't be completely lineage until he would face the American Boston Strong Boy, John L. Sullivan, 1889. And then you would have the first American heavyweight champion of all times, John L. Sullivan. You would have Charlie Mitchell. He was in there with all comers. He was the British middleweight champion who fought all comers, including heavyweight John O'Sullivan and Jim Corbett. He was born in Binghamton, England, March 24th, 1861. He died April 3rd, 1918, in Binghamton, England. But see, the thing is, they got title opportunities where black fighters didn't. And eventually you had fighters such as George Cherinsky, who was a bare knuckle fighter. And eventually he would use gloves when gloves became legal. 2-ounce gloves. You would have Sam McVeigh. He was a colored heavyweight champion. He was the Iron Mike Tyson of that day. And this man was brutal. He could fight to the death if needed be. You would have Joe Jeanette from Hoboken, New Jersey. He would be the colored heavyweight champion as well. We'd have Sam Langford. I have him the greatest fighter of all times. He was a brutal puncher. Black fighters didn't get their opportunities until 1908. Jack Johnson would defeat Tommy Burns, Sydney, Australia. You would have George Dixon, who would become the Canadian, who was a bantamweight champion of the world and featherweight champion of the world. He had Peter Jackson, who became the Australian heavyweight champion, as well as the colored heavyweight champion. Phenomenal fighter was the Black Prince, Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson would face James J. Corbett. 61-round draw. They refused to allow Peter Jackson to honor that victory. And that fight took place 1894 against this man, James J. Corbett. Now, James J. Corbett would take the title away from John O'Sullivan. Once again, he was given an opportunity. Peter Jackson was winning all the rounds, and Corbett couldn't come back, so they decided to make it a draw because there was no way they were going to allow a black fighter to defeat Corbett John O'Sullivan already stated he would never put his title on the line against a black fighter. James J. Corbett got his opportunity with John O'Sullivan, and he would knock out John O'Sullivan to become the heavyweight champion of the world. But he would go 61 rounds with the Black Prince, Peter Jackson, and they would call it a draw. I think we do understand why. Jack Johnson would become heavyweight champion in 1908, and he would lose his championship belt in 1915 to Jess Willard because they put him away because of the Mann Act, a law that did not apply to his circumstance, crossing women over state lines. And Jack Johnson was married to his wife, who happened to be white, but he was legally married to her. James J. Jeffries was called off of his alfalfa farm in 1910 to take on Jack Johnson and came up short, 15 rounds. He was devastatingly knocked out. Gentleman Jim Corbett had to step in the ring to save the white race. Boxing history. What a story. This is Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series stating, all great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Salute to these outstanding boxers. Salute to Bill Richmond and Tom Molineaux for their courage and their tenaciousness. Striving for equal and fair play. Bob Fitzsimmons. Gentleman Jim Jeffries, Boilermaker. All these men would get the fair opportunities that they rightfully deserved. Unfortunately for Bill Richmond and Tom Molineaux, they came around out of time. No such luck. I believe that Tom Molineaux could have knocked out Tom Cribb, as he did. And a way would have been found not to allow him to become champion. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Salute.
Lord, he tries to follow me.